While you can expect students to be a little anxious on test day, rest assured that test day unfolds in some fairly predictable ways. Coordinators will have everything ready to go, so proctors can pick up prepared kits specific for their test rooms. In the rooms, proctors will come up with seating plans and prepare to admit students to the test. They'll hand out test materials after all the students have arrived, not before. Then, the test follows the routine described in the testing room manual in both direction and script, which proctors will read word for word. Proctors will engage in active monitoring, watching for and tracking any irregularities in the room. Once all sections are complete, the proctors will collect all the test materials and dismiss the room before sharing the materials back to the coordinator. Coordinators should have prepared kits to share with you when you get to school. The kits will contain a student list for the room, the correct number of test books and answer sheets, as well as a testing room manual and an irregularity report. If your school did not conduct pre-administration sessions, you'll also receive supplemental handouts to be handed out with answer sheets so students can complete the needed demographic information. Be advised, once you have the materials, you become responsible for their security until they're returned after the test. This means keeping an eye on them all morning or engaging the room monitor or coordinator during breaks to watch over them while you're on breaks. Before the test starts, students need to put information on their answer sheets that provides identification as to where and when they took the test. Be ready by having the information they'll need up on the board ready to be copied down. What information is critical to include? You'll see some options. Take a guess at the appropriate options to complete the board. Some are easier than others. When the room is ready, can students just enter and seat themselves freely? No. Proctors must either direct them to assigned seats or assigned seating at random. What does the test morning look like from a timing perspective? You may need to start with some pre-administration activities, which usually take 45 to 50 minutes. If your school conducted a pre-administration session for students, you'll jump right into the first section. This is a reading test, and it's timed for 60 minutes. After that, students get a 5-minute break before they start in on the 35-minute writing and language section. When writing and language is done, they'll switch right into the non-calculator portion of the math test. Tour the room and ensure all students remove calculators from their desks for this section. This takes an additional 25 minutes and is followed by a 5-minute break. The last section is the 45-minute math test with calculator. When it's done, you'll spend about 5 minutes collecting materials and dismissing students. Why does this matter? It's important to know how long each section will take in order to understand the pace of the test, the pace of your morning. Furthermore, it's important to understand that this can't be rushed and that correct timing is a critical part of fair testing. As a side note, if you happen to run overtime with the administration activities, make sure the timing of the remaining sections remains the same. Again, you can't rush the sections regardless of how the rest of the school's test is unfolding. You may be used to handing out materials to classes. You may even do this nearly every day. So, do you think there is any difference in the way you hand out test materials? There is. Make sure to hand out test materials individually to students rather than setting a stack of materials on the front desk of a row and having students hand them back. You'll collect materials individually as well. Again, the idea here is to ensure there are no opportunities for any student to gain an unfair advantage. Administering the test can be extremely straightforward. Using the script in your manual, you'll read it word for word in the order provided. There, test administered. Still, you want to make sure you're doing it right. What does that mean? You'll start where the manual says begin here on test day. There follows some information on what to include on the board, as well as how to deal with cell phones and backpacks, and then latecomers. Then you get important instructions on how to read the script, including when to pause and what parts are to be read versus instructions to you. Next, you'll read the tinted components aloud and follow the instructions. Here you see the script for the first section, the reading test. It indicates the duration of the test and has a place for you to write down the start and finish times. It also includes instructions for what you should be doing during the test, as well as timed call-outs you will need to make to keep students apprised of the time. An important tip: read through, even practice script reading before the test to understand where the potential challenges are. Feel free to mark up the script if it is helpful. One thing to be mindful of: if your school did take the students through the pre-administration activity at an early date, you'll need to skip that section on test day. Otherwise, you'll read it in order. While students are mid-test, write the time for the next break on the board, both when it will start, how long it is, and when students will need to return. Indicate, too, that beverages and snacks are permitted during breaks. Ideally, snacks and beverages should be consumed outside of the testing room, but this may not be possible at all schools. Please make sure that eating or drinking is never allowed near testing materials. While the students are on break, walk around the room to check that all test books are closed and that all answer sheets are inside the test books. You don't want students to copy each other during breaks. Be aware that students are not to discuss the test during breaks, nor can they use their phones. They will need to be supervised while they are out of the room. Hall monitors or the coordinator can cover this role. As students return to the room, review your room count or attendance sheet to ensure they are supposed to be there. During the testing, you will need to engage in active monitoring. What is active monitoring? Active monitoring involves a combination of walking around the room, observing students, watching for irregularities, watching the time, and in spare moments, reading ahead in the script to make sure you are comfortable with the next stage you need to announce. Do you know what to do if your active monitoring uncovers a problem? Generally, you'll find the problem addressed in the irregularity chart provided in your coordinator manual. There, you'll find solutions and actions you should take right away. Then, if applicable, you will follow up by noting the incident in your irregularity report as described in the chart. If you are noting a group irregularity, include the testing room code if one has been assigned, and make sure to include the names of the involved students on the last page of the irregularity report. Once the test is done, you would return a completed report of irregularities. Here's an example. The proctor has completed the script for the reading portion of the test. Not 2 minutes in, she notices a student texting on her phone and leaving the phone on her desk. The proctor knows the phone isn't permitted and has to handle the situation. Exactly how to handle it will be in the irregularity chart. Open this irregularity chart and see if you can find the correct action. The proctor knows the phone is prohibited and finds the issue identified under Observed with Prohibited Electronic Devices. She sees that she will need to collect the test book and answer sheet and dismiss the student. The chart also identifies how to report the incident. Here, she'll fill in the irregularity report for this issue following the directions. Here's a different situation. For this one, you'll need to solve the problem on your own. Open the irregularity chart and then select on the student to see what the issue is. The student indicates that his answers were placed in the wrong section on the answer sheet. Review the irregularity chart and select the correct response. That's right. In this case, you'll need to provide the student with a new answer sheet, provide directions to the student, and submit a report. And how will you document this in your irregularity report? That's correct. Remember, you'll need to consult your manual for the irregularity chart. Helping a student with a specific issue has the potential to take up a lot of your time. If it happens, you may lose track of the rest of the room. Consider asking the room monitor to pick up active monitoring while you deal with this student, or ask a room monitor to bring in the coordinator for the same task. These strategies will enable you to maintain fair testing in the room. Also, familiarize yourself with the irregularity chart before test day. This will give you confidence on what to look for and an indication of responses. The final section of the test is now complete, and you've directed the students to stop working. Can they just leave now? Students can't just leave when they're done. But to simplify dismissal, Your role is scripted in the manual, just like other portions of the test. You'll direct the students to remain seated while you collect materials. Here are a couple tips. Collect test books and answer sheets in the same order you distributed them. Make sure answer sheets aren't stuffed into test books. It is even recommended that you shake out the test books to be safe. Make sure you have a test book and answer sheet from each student. Make sure that all students have indicated their name, grade, and school code on their answer sheets and have filled out the form code on the back of their test book. Once collected and confirmed, you dismiss the students, replace all materials to the kit, and return everything to the coordinator. Coordinators and proctors have one more responsibility they share. All the test materials need to be reconciled. Ultimately, this means ensuring that the test materials distributed are the same as the ones returned. Test books, unused answer sheets, and used answer sheets have to come back with nothing missing and be counted. Proctors, plan to return materials in that order with your IR on top. If your school has used the test room cover sheet, adding it to the top of the returned materials will help coordinators confirm they've received back all test materials from all rooms and distinguish at a glance standard rooms and accommodated testing rooms. Feeling good about your role on test day? Despite the fact it only happens a few times a year, think of test day as a kind of routine. You'll get your materials, take them to the test room, make sure the test room is adequately arranged, and add information to the front board. Then, once you've admitted students, you'll read through the scripts, distribute test materials when prompted, and make sure students are tested fairly, which you'll do through active monitoring. Keep an eye on the time, manage the sections and the breaks, and everything will go very smoothly. When you're done, make sure to collect everything back, let the students out, and breathe a sigh of relief.